Are live, Chair. Ready when you are.
Got it. Let's go through these comments. Pulling up here. Perfect. This is my agenda here. Public Safety Committee meeting. It's a little after 9:03 right now, Monday, October 5th. Committee members are present. This is a virtual meeting due to COVID-19 pandemic. First item on the agenda is acknowledge that the press and public have been duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The second item on our agenda is the approval of previous month's minutes, which is of September 14th of 2020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. We're going to move on to citizens' comments. We receive citizens' comments via email, and you can always make public comment through the city's website, comment forum. If you can go ahead and have those read for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Beatrice Love, 9 Sand Dollar Drive. Regarding the new emergency gate at Wildwood, please make sure it is written that only the fire and police chief have the keys and only that they can make the determination of what constitutes an emergency. The residents of Wildwood are afraid that this will turn into a third gate for Wild Dunes. Robert Chase, Mount Pleasant. I have been making grocery deliveries to Isle of Palms residents since the pandemic started in March and am constantly driving the length of Palm Boulevard. I am a county resident providing an essential service to city residents and a supporter of free public beach access in our region. I don't understand why the land side of Palm Boulevard was ever closed to parking. This does not appear to be a public safety concern. There is adequate setback space, sidewalks, and crosswalks to allow for parking on the land side while still being far enough over to allow emergency vehicles to pass. Additionally, public parking is already prohibited on the parallel side streets for emergency vehicles to use between 22nd and 40th if the city is not enforcing the setback. If the city is deciding to close parking in this area, they should not do it under the guise of public safety. This is an entirely generating revenue decision. It should not be in the Public Safety Committee. The Isle of Palms is considering charging for parking on the beach side, which has tighter parking than the land side and sends people walking into the road instead of on sidewalks in order to get to the beach access points. Jeremy Grigsby, James Island, submitting this comment knowing no one on this council cares what anyone off island thinks about your policies. We've been voicing our concerns for months, and obviously the majority of council wants a private island. Residential only parking should not exist. The bus route will see little use because families can't bring all the things they need for a day at the beach. A bus route to help the businesses in the evening could get Mount Pleasant residents to come across for dinner. Parking needs to return to a maximum number of spaces to help alleviate traffic. Traffic is a result of having nowhere to park to access a beach that belongs to the state, not IOP. A commission needs to look at every homeowner violation of blocking the state-owned easement with overnight cars, fake mailboxes, landscaping too wide of driveways, and any other miscellaneous infraction designed to keep day trippers from parking on state-owned roads. I pray daily for the South Carolina legislature to step in and take control of this parking nightmare that y'all have created through greed and elitism. Marty Brown, 5 22nd Avenue. In an effort to increase public safety, please consider amending the current policy for dogs on the beach. I have witnessed a steadily increasing number of safety concerns directly related to animals that are off leash on the beach. Dogs are often hundreds of yards from their owners and clearly not under voice control. My 2-year-old child has been repeatedly approached by large dogs, sometimes while in the stroller, sometimes while on foot. Seemingly, the beach has become a popular large-scale dog park where dogs have precedence over people, including young children. It is not uncommon for dogs to run up to strangers and jump on them. I've had dogs try to bite me while jogging on the beach. I've seen dogs chase and try to bite others. I've seen dogs actually bite other people and other dogs. It's also worth mentioning that dog excrement is prevalent, especially on the beach between 21st and 25th beach access path. Carl Matthews, Mount Pleasant. I am writing to ask why the council refuses to acknowledge the validity of the SCDOT directive. Palm Boulevard is a state road and the safety issues cited by the council of concern for people crossing is null and void, given there were 0 reported incidents of people being hurt crossing Palm. It is a shame that you would rather spend your money for lawyers and suffer the ill will and backlash that certainly will ensue by not following this law. Paul Remmel, Mount Pleasant. As a 20-year resident of Mount Pleasant and a 30-year resident of South Carolina, I'm very concerned about the parking restrictions being implemented on IOP. I hope the City Council remember Remember that these beaches belong to all residents of South Carolina. I know that safety is top of mind, but I'm sure that there is a way to keep safe and allow access at the same time. It is not as if unsafe is the first word that comes to mind when you think of IOP or Palm Boulevard. Linda Hall, Mount Pleasant. I will continue to park on Palm Boulevard to go to the beach. You have no right to prevent me. Suck it up. Mary Ann Weaver, Johns Island. South Carolina DOT clearly told you that you cannot ban parking on a state-owned street. Neil Dixon, Mount Pleasant. The South Carolina DOT has instructed your committee on September 23rd, quote, the public has the right to park along the state-owned right-of-way, close quote. Please do not disregard that Palm Boulevard is a state-owned road of way. Violation of this directive would be a legal mistake, and the Isle of Palms would surely face lawsuits. Please follow laws and directives from SCDOT. Kristen Dixon, Mount Pleasant. Please adhere to the SCDOT directive to allow the public to park along a state-owned right-of-way. Palm Boulevard is a state-owned right-of-way, so there should be no question as to letting the public park there. The Isle of Palms will face unpleasant litigation if this directive is blatantly disregarded. Dear committee, please save us all this waste of time and resources by following the SCDOT directives. Myra Jones, Mount Pleasant. Pursuant to the directive you received from the Secretary of Transportation, Christy Hall, by letter dated September 23rd, 2020, quote, the public has the right to park along the state-owned right-of-way unless SCDOT identifies a safety-related issue. To date, we have not identified any safety issues along Palm Boulevard that would warrant the elimination of parking. These state-owned highways are public facilities, and the rights of the public to utilize these publicly owned assets may not be permanently eliminated by the action of local governments, close quote. Now that you have received the final word from SCDOT, please remove any restrictions on parking along any state-owned highways on the Isle of Palms immediately and permanently. If you refuse to do so, you are in violation of your responsibility to carry out the laws and regulations of the state of South Carolina and subject to any further repercussions. Mary Deming, Somerville. According to the State Secretary of Transportation for South Carolina, Palm Boulevard is a state right-of-way. Today, my husband and I received a parking ticket, although we followed the rules posted on the sign next to our car. Parallel parking only and parking within the arrows. This was our first visit to IOP. Nowhere did we see signs posted where we were driving and looking for parking that said we had to park at least 4 feet away. Why would this rule not be posted with the others? Furthermore, and to my original grievance, we parked on the state-owned right-of-way. Clearly, IOP's desire is to keep non-locals away. I look forward to your response. Ellen Williams, Mount Pleasant. I am again writing to ask you that you do not vote to implement island-wide paid parking and rollback restrictions that have been implemented over the last several years. IOP must abide by SCDOT's ruling that you cannot restrict parking on the land side of Palm. Just because you live on the island does not give you the right to disregard the law and prevent non-island residents from parking there. Further, implementing all paid parking and administering exorbitant fees, particularly during a pandemic, is discriminatory. Many people in this area and state cannot afford to pay to park at the beach, and they should not have to. All of the racial angst leading to the recent riots is built up from the systemic inequalities, such as what you're doing with moving towards limited paid parking. We should not have to hassle with the lack of parking or deal with residents' trash cans and landscaping hindering where we park. Please consider the consequences of what you're doing and make parking free for all who just want to smell the salt in the air and feel the sand between their toes. In this time of high stress and hate, you have an opportunity to make things right and bring many people a sense of peace. Bradley John Dunnels, Mount Pleasant. As Charleston County and the state of South Carolina has returned to work, school, recreation, how is it that the Isle of Palms Council continues to maintain emergency status for their town? How is it that the town council continues to restrict parking on Palm Boulevard in direct conflict with SCDOT's order to halt that activity? Rick Oljars, Mount Pleasant. For the IOP council and mayor to use public safety as the reasoning for the public parking restrictions could not be more disingenuous. That has been proven. So with your plan to use the shuttle bus as a suitable solution, it's actually a ridiculous idea. The worst thing is that you all know this to be true. The beach is for everyone to enjoy, not just IOP residents. We all love the beach, its shops, restaurants, and its residents. Some are my friends. When homeowners purchase a house on IOP, they most certainly know about the space allocated for public parking. If not, then this is their issue with their realtor. Your actions are causing businesses to close and animosity between low country citizens. It's shameful, especially in a time when everyone needs as much support as possible. And that ends your public comments.
Perfect. Thank you very much for reading that.
Sure.
Put my agenda. Again, now we're into old business. First item on the agenda of old business is update on our public safety building rehabilitation project. I know that we are really ahead of schedule and under budget, and everything's going well over there. Desiree, you want to give us an update on that?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. As you all know, we have been very pleased with the progress on this project, not only the schedule, but the amazing work that the design build team has done, working with our group and making sure that our needs are met and that the project has been progressing very nicely. Also, I want to give a shout out to Inside Group, who's been working as the city's owner's representative, and they have been doing a very thorough assessment and oversight work throughout the whole process. So, like Chairman Buchanan mentioned earlier, we are already starting to work towards relocating folks back to the building. Today we have cleaning scheduled for the interior of the building, and we have movers scheduled very soon to start moving equipment and furniture back into the building. We still have a schedule or a timeline for relocation to start mid-October. And even though the work is not yet completed, the Trident folks and the Trident team will be working on some minor and final punch list items while the team is relocating and working inside. So we're very proud of this project. We're very excited that it'll be completed ahead of schedule. Again, some minor work, lighting, some landscaping work outside of the building, painting is still being completed, some duct work with the HVAC is still pending to be completed very soon. There's work to be done on the apparatus bay, particularly with the bar joist areas that are being sealed. Also, some fire alarm devices that are scheduled to be completed this week. Just minor work, painting, and just some, again, like I said, final punch list items. So progressing nicely. You all may want to take a look at our timeline in the city's website, which from the very beginning, I know that the timeline in Chief Graham's mind is a lot longer than what it shows on the website, because truly this has been a long process, but we're very excited to see it completed and have it reintroduced to the community.
Perfect. Thank you, Desiree. And it's not only the timeline, which makes it nice on the city's website, and I encourage everybody to go on there, but it's not only the timeline for the rehabilitation projects, it's for all our projects that we have going on throughout the city and where we are within the discussions. And if anybody has questions on where we're at with any project within the city, they can go to this website and look at the timeline. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
No, great update, Desiree. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is discussion and update on implementation of paid parking on the existing public beach parking zones. What can you give us on this?
Yes. So first, before I get into the paid parking conversation, I do want to clarify that the SCDOT's letter that the city received back in September related to council's decision or action to eliminate permanently the landside parking on Palm Boulevard was associated, or their response was associated with that action. Currently, you all recall that in the summer, council implemented some emergency and temporary parking restrictions on not only Palm Boulevard, but also the avenues between 3rd and 9th that were related to COVID and related to the crowding that we were seeing on the beach. Those restrictions are based on, are implemented in light of the emergency ordinance. Those expire after 60 days, and the last action that council took on the emergency ordinance, September 25th, was to extend those, as well as extending the state of emergency in light of COVID. So just a clarification in that SCDOT expressed their position that they would not be supportive of the council's decision or proposal on permanently eliminating the landside of Palm due to public safety concerns. So we're excited and eager to work with them to ensure an enhanced pedestrian and vehicular safety in that area, because we all know that sort of an accident waiting to happen due to the volume of cars and volume of pedestrians that are crossing the road to go to the beach. That aside, I do want us to have a conversation about the implementation of paid parking. I've had internal conversations with Chief Cornett and also our legal team. And, you know, in light of the letter from SCDOT, in light of SCDOT's higher level of scrutiny over the city's parking plan and parking regulations due to the public outcry that we've seen all summer, and also the pending litigation that the city has with the Charleston area public beaches group, it may be necessary for the city to delay the implementation of paid parking until those issues are resolved. We are going to need to work closely with SCDOT, because as you all know, they're state-owned. And although they have expressed in the past that charging for parking is part of the city's jurisdiction and authority, as long as those funds are used to improve the area and maintain the right-of-way, I think that the city might see some, I guess maybe it may be difficult just in light of the summer. It may not. I just want to bring it up, and I want us to talk about timing, because we obviously budgeted some funds, budgeted some expenditures as well as part of the implementation of paid parking. And we may have no choice but to wait. It may be the prudent thing to do, or we may have no choice. We don't know yet, but I just want to, you know, have that conversation with you all, and just in light of what's happened recently. We just have concerns about the timing of it all.
Okay, and that's understandable. And I had some questions about it as well, because I know we have some budgeted items that are getting ready to for paid parking. And, you know, I'd hate to go through and spend a bunch of money on a paid parking program if we come down the road and find out, you know, the state's going to block it. And what's really interesting is that we've been trying to reach out to DOT for years for guidance and help on parking, and kind of fallen on deaf ears. Although they did, you know, go through and allow us to start doing some, you know, discussion of paid parking, but it wasn't until we acted on it, was until they stepped up and offered some, you know, objection and then help. So I mean, yeah. So I guess it's interesting in that aspect. I don't know, Philip, you had a hand up. You have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess, Desiree, you know, even in the most recent letter from the DOT, they still have a comment in there about a reasonable fee for parking. My personal opinion, I think we ought to go full steam ahead and have everything ready to go for spring, just like we thought about, and concurrent have conversations with DOT trying to get, you know, where we need to, or where we need to compromise or whatever. But I would not like to see us delay this decision based on events. Again, I think the letter from the DOT was pretty clear that that's still allowable, and absent you know, some new information from them, whenever you can get in front of them, you know, maybe we change paths, but I think we still go full steam ahead. Personal opinion.
Jimmy, you got any comment, or you good? You're muted. Okay. No comment. Gotcha. I can read it.
Yeah, no comment. I'm fine. Thank you. Finally, I was unmuted.
Yeah. Okay.
So, not only, you know, obviously we need to coordinate and work with SCDOT on this, and you know, I don't think that the city's ability is sort of in question. The concern is the pending litigation, and going into significant expenditures to implement the paid parking system next spring. As of yet, we have not purchased anything that we would not need otherwise. The truck that was approved by City Council last month was scheduled to be replaced anyway because of its condition. The LPRs have not yet been purchased, but my concern is purchasing those, which, we're talking about $100,000 for the 2 LPRs, purchasing signage, purchasing, getting into the work, completing the work with the mobile app, doing all that, and then the response or the decision from the court is different from what we have been planning for. That is my main concern, not necessarily working with SCDOT and getting a plan approved, but just the pending litigation. And that is why, from our perspective at the staff level, maybe thinking about unintended consequences of pursuing and moving forward, or the unintended consequences of delaying it, or not only unintended consequences, but the pros and cons, if you will, of those decisions. Want to make sure that we do have a thorough understanding of the results and potential actions that may come up, in light of the pending litigation. So I just wanted to bring that up. I felt like it was my sort of sense of duty to you all to have this conversation and express significant concerns from the staff's perspective, and also just share them with you, have an opportunity to have that conversation.
Okay. Go ahead.
That's right. What's go back to the lawsuit. What's the intent of that lawsuit? It isn't just about eliminating parking, not necessarily paid.
They are eliminating parking, regulating parking, and also charging for parking is a main component of that lawsuit.
Gotcha. Okay, I hear you, and don't disagree with concern. My vote would still be to move forward, but that's just one person's opinion.
And I think we can still move forward. Obviously, I think we really don't have a choice. I'm going to move forward working with DOT now that they are, let's say, coming to the table and willing to discuss options and trying to help with the issues that we're dealing with out here on the island. Whether it's, you can still drive up Palm Boulevard and see that the rights of way are rutted. They're not maintained. We can't maintain them. It's the duty of SCDOT to maintain them. And they're not living up to their obligations. And I know we're going to take it on and do some of that work ourselves just because it's not getting done. But I think we can still move forward. Discussion with that. I don't think we need to go ahead and purchase any equipment as of yet. That type of stuff, we can wait off, a little bit longer on it until we have further discussion and realize what DOT is going to allow and not allow now that they're kind of making some changes to what they had previously stated. Jimmy?
Well, after listening to Desiree, I agree with Philip to a point, but I think there's two points to make here, and one of them that we haven't really discussed that Desiree's brought up is the legal liability side of it and the lawsuits. Whereas we want to move forward with it, we want to make sure that we don't spend a lot of money without getting proper guidance from legal. If you understand what I mean.
I agree. So, but I would just, and I don't know if you need a motion from us right now, Desiree, on purchasing and stuff like that, but I think, and I'm not how Philip feels, but we can continue to work with DOT to see what we're going to allow, but I know we still want to move forward and with discussion, but I wouldn't go through and purchase any of the high dollar equipment yet until we know that we're actually able to utilize it.
Yeah, well, and the encroachment permit still needs to be completed and submitted to SCDOT. You all know that we're working with Stantec and updating the sign plan to include the changes that have been discussed, and that work is ongoing. We've already engaged Stantec for that work, and we'll continue to move forward in that sense. My concern is with start purchasing equipment at this point that may or may not be able to use, depending on what the courts dictate on this case.
Okay. No, I agree. I agree with you, Desiree. So, yeah, definitely. I don't want to get into a position where we're purchasing hundreds of $1,000s worth of equipment and have no way to recoup that cost.
Well, and the other thing is, if we wait, we're trying to wait for a decision and a resolution on this issue, depending on when that comes, then the turnaround of being, let's say we are able to continue to move forward, the turnaround for getting this equipment, it might delay us in some way. So I just, I know that the wheels of government move very slow normally, but when we are dealing with all these different circumstances, that may complicate things a little bit more. So, we may have to pivot.
Let alone in the middle of a pandemic.
Exactly.
Right. So, but okay, yeah, I do not have a problem with that. I don't know if you need any other direction from us. Like I said, we can still continue with discussion with SCDOT, working with Stantec, working with the permitting processes and everything. And when it comes through to make those high dollar purchases later on down the road, we'll make a decision then. You guys have a problem with that?
Nope.
Is that good for you, Desiree?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chief Cornett, that good? Perfect. Okay. Discussion of improvements to the ocean side of Palm Boulevard between 21st and 41st. As you guys have noticed, we've put up, other folks put up barriers. It's become problematic, become a public safety, especially in the more northern end of Palm Boulevard, closer to 41st, between 35th and 41st, where it's becoming very rutted and very unsafe. The shoulder's unstable. I think, Desiree, you've reached out to some vendors for improvements of those areas.
Yes, and those vendors being our own public works group. And well, we did contact a vendor who will help regrade some of these areas and reuse some of the gravel and ROC that was removed from the
public safety
building. The driveway. That was, that was just redone. We have all that material, and we are planning on reusing that for these areas. That work is scheduled to happen this winter. The public works folks are still kind of catching up on some debris pickup, and now that they go to once a week garbage collection, we have a little bit more time to take care of some of these punch list items. So we will be continuing to work on behalf of, in regards to this issue or this item on the agenda. And I think that this will also be part of the conversations that the city will include with SCDOT, as in for them to understand that the paid parking program is not only meant to cover the cost of the cities for providing public access to the beach, but also improving the right-of-ways and improving the road. And some iterations have been shared about some concepts that have been developed in the past about what that could look like. And maybe the first step toward heading in that direction is for the committee to consider budgeting some funds for the next budget cycle to have an expert, whether it's Stantec or some other firm that could help the city in conceptually design what those improvements could look like, and also do some surveying, because conceptually everything's possible, but we have some significant hurdles to get through when it comes to Palm Boulevard, mainly utility work, some drainage, and also some encroachments in the right-of-way. So Chair Buchanan has been very intentional about looking at this very actively. And I think that, as time goes, we'll be able to kind of refine what the goal is and refine what the concept or your vision is for the improvements to Palm Boulevard. Certainly possible, but I think it needs, before we have a concrete plan moving forward, we need to have some engineering work to be able to not only conceptually present what's possible, but realistically too, and maybe even provide some opinions of probable cost to give you all an idea of what this may cost to the city in the long term, and potentially support the paid parking system as we move forward.
Okay. And like I said, that project itself, just the engineering aspect of it, it was going to take some time. And I can't even imagine what it would cost. So, I mean, we don't need any action on this today, but if we could work towards and, speak with some of the engineering firms, whether it's Stantec or others, and kind of give us an idea of what we need to start saving and budgeting for in our next budget year to improve what it's going to take to improve those shoulders. Go ahead, Philip.
Hey, Ryan, just real quick, Stantec's done so much design work already. I mean, it seems like we could leverage, excuse me, some of what they've already done, hopefully. I mean, we'd probably need to bid it, but I mean, they've done 2 or 3 different scenario drawings for us already. That's not surveying, I know, but could at least be a pretty good start on what we've already seen. So that's it, Ryan. Thank you.
No, I agree with you. Okay. Thank you. Desiree, is that good for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. We have an update on our pedestrian crosswalks and intersection safety. We had some discussion on this previously, and we're trying to find ways to make the crosswalks more visible, and even trying to find ways to add additional crosswalks, down Palm Boulevard. We've gotten some pushback from SCDOT to add additional crosswalks north of 41st Avenue. They may be, from my understanding, might be open to something now that they've realized that we're having issues out here in the Isle of Palms, as well as some additional crosswalks along Palm between 21st and 41st, but also trying to find ways to make those crosswalks more noticeable to traffic and make it more safety conscious. Desiree, the chief, you want to touch base on that for us?
Before the chief, I let the chief sort of talk through what we're doing currently to enhance pedestrian safety. The chief and I have had conversations with SCDOT. We've had some email exchange with the folks from the engineering department there about not only, like you said, how do we highlight and make sure that people are aware of the crosswalks that are currently there, which are, there are quite a few between 21st and 41st, and there's typically one every 3 blocks. We have none on 41st Avenue, so we're also working with them to try to identify the perfect or the correct locations down that end of where we can put them, and then what kind of infrastructure we would have to consider in order for the crosswalks to properly connect to an ADA pad. So I think that since the city has been, like you said, for many years trying to work with them to maybe request a little bit of flexibility with the city, just because our needs are somewhat different than other communities by virtue of, just having a lot of pedestrian traffic towards the beach. We're eager and we're hopeful, I should say. We're hopeful that we're going to be able to find a common or an agreeable solution that works both for SCDOT and the city. Chief?
All right, thanks, Desiree.
So last time I mentioned the rectangular rapid flash beacon, and got to looking at that we would have to get approval from the Federal Highway Administration, which they've done for other municipalities in South Carolina, Folly Beach and Somerville. When I got to looking a little bit more, they are basically what it is. It's a light that can be activated by a pedestrian when they get to the crosswalk. They hit the button and the light would activate, and it kind of gets more attention for vehicular traffic to stop and allow them to cross over. It could be, there's some other ways you could do it, but that's the basic of it. It would cost us about $10,000 to $15,000 to get 2 put in, and you would need 2 per crosswalk. So $10,000 to $15,000 for that. One thing that SCDOT would require would be that we would have a study to show that we need those in those locations. So that's one of our hurdles we'll have to overcome, and then the financing for them as well.
Okay, so this looks like something that's going to roll into next budget year as well. But maybe we can get the study done this year. I don't know what it would take. And what's bad about that is now we're trying to implement a study in the off season when something we need is in prime season. When our next budget already starts. What are they looking for from the study? Can we, just traffic patterns and not people crossing, or?
But they really didn't say. It just says that we have to have a study to show that the rectangular rapid flashing beacon installation is justified based on appropriate criteria from resources and research. And it includes traffic data, to include pedestrian and vehicular counts, crash history, narrative describing the reason for the location, and what other traffic control devices have been used to try to address those concerns in the past.
Yeah, and that, I don't know if we have existing traffic data that we can pull up there, but on file or anything like that. But I mean, definitely, the volume of people that come over in the summertime, we kind of have that number available, but we definitely don't have data that counts the number of people that are utilizing those crosswalks, and that might be one of them. Those numbers that we need, I don't know. So I guess it's something we need to work on here before next budget.
Well, and I'll reach out again and say maybe we use the crosswalks that are already there. If maybe that helps us a little bit, because they should have done a study in the past to have implemented those crosswalks there. Maybe we can utilize that. I'll continue to work on that part.
Okay. It's never as easy as it seems. So, but I'm curious how these other communities, if obviously they had to go through the same route and to install some of these crosswalks, and because I see them, like you said, I'm at Folly Beach and other communities and throughout the state, honestly.
I'll ask Folly Beach. I tend to talk to them quite a bit, and I think they would be very similar to what we're looking at and the reason why. So I'll reach out to them and see if we can see what they did. According to SCDOT rep, they had to go through the exact same steps that we're going to have to go through.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
No, I mean, Ryan, this is the catch-22 conundrum. I mean, our studies, thinking about Palm in front of Harris Teeter, I mean, our studies just are never going to show the volume that probably is going to hit on their radar screen.
No.
And it's very frustrating dealing with this organization. I mean, our last 3 items on the agenda, we're saying we're kind of stuck in the mud waiting on DOT and that conversation with DOT and guidance from DOT, and very frustrating.
No,
I know I'm preaching to the choir, but.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is something we've been dealing with for years.
Yeah.
So it's always falls back in their court. You good, Jimmy? You good? Okay. Let's move on to update on Front Beach loading zones and parking. I know we've tried to go through. We have a lot of loading zones on the Front Beach area, and like I said, I've talked to some of the businesses up there, and they come in. They basically only use a couple hours throughout the day, but they're blocked off all day long. And I'm trying to give some relief to those businesses, allow more parking, closer to the restaurants, and people can get in there. Do you have any update? I know, Chief, you were trying to get some pricing on that, or
I do.
Okay.
I can tell you, we went and we looked at it, and just based on a quick measurement of what we saw, our recommendation would be the loading zone currently in place for the Sleep Inn, the hotel, or Seaside Inn. They have basically it would be 2 parking stalls that they leave 24/7 because they have guests that come in and out throughout the day. Right now, the other hotel on Front Beach has a shared loading zone, which is kind of used for the rest of the Front Beach area as well. Our recommendation would be that we keep about 2 parking stalls for that hotel as well that stays 24/7. And if we did that, we were looking at about 5 to 6 parking spots that we would be opening up. Talking to the businesses, it looks like deliveries are between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. So if we were to open it up after 2 p.m., then that would be about 5 to 6 parking spots. And we're looking at about just a rough estimate of $2,500 to complete it. And that would be painting over what we currently have and putting down new yellow striping. That does not include the signage that we would need to put up. We would need to change the signage that's currently there to say that it's a loading zone between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. And really, when I looked at our ordinance, I think we could just change some of the wording in the ordinance to cover it. Right now, our ordinance says that loading zones are 24/7. And I think we could really just kind of change that to match whatever the sign would say. And it would be a simple change.
as for the other 4 spots, like in front of the hotels and whatever, those hotels also have underground parking in areas that they can utilize underneath there. And I'm not sure how it was written in the code that those spots were designated for those businesses. Or
I don't know that it was written in the code that it was. It might have just been a friendly gesture with those businesses. I did not see anything specific to a loading zone to a hotel. But it could just be, again, one of those things that we understand that they have customers that come and go throughout the day and are pulling in there. I don't know, but that could also be something that we change as well.
Right. Well, there's a number of businesses out there, that have customers coming and going, whether it's for a little bit or, an hour or so. I mean, it's really the same situation. I mean, now we're picking 2 businesses along Front Beach that have, dedicated parking spots. When other businesses along Front Beach don't have any any parking underneath their establishment and don't have any dedicated parking spots. So it's just, I'm just trying to make it equitable across the, the whole Ocean Boulevard area. And, those other business, the hotels can make it happen by utilizing the parking that they have underneath the hotel for loading, offloading or whatever. And just kind of open up the parking for, everybody to use. So we're giving private businesses public space to utilize in perpetuity for themselves. So that's my only concern with that.
And that's perfectly fine too. Whatever council wants to move forward with, that would be a total of 8 additional spots. Perfect. I'm sorry, 4 additional spots. Right. Pardon my math. It's Monday. So 4 additional spots, which would give us about 9 to 10 spots that open up after 2 p.m. Each day.
Philip or Jimmy, you have any questions on this? Or
no, good.
Desiree?
Chief, do you have any concerns with traffic backups if we eliminate these loading zones for the hotel? That people will just stop on the lane of traffic until they load off their luggage and potentially create a traffic backup. I'm thinking that may have been the reason why, and I think obviously this predates me. That was the reason why, to avoid that. So I mean, how would we deal with it? Just require the hotels to move the people who are unloading to move it towards the parking area behind underground, or not underground, but on their first floor.
So right now what they're doing is those spots are typically used when somebody's checking in or taking their bags in real quick and they're parking on municipal lot A or B. So they'll take their bags in real quick and then come move their car to municipal lot A or B. I would assume if we took away those spots, they would just have to have some signage or some wording on their website to tell them that they need to pull in there. I think in the beginning, it would certainly cause some concern or some traffic backup as they adjust to that, because it would be a change. But that, I would agree with, that would be why they probably did it.
Okay. And anybody coming to, I mean, if somebody were to repetitively do that, and I can understand it, but anybody coming new to the area, I mean, I assume they would look for parking, and if they were to pull into a hotel, they'd pull underneath and go to the hotel and park. But we can reach out to them as well. But just the idea of giving private business their own personalized parking spaces and taking away from the public, just doesn't seem fair. Okay. We'll follow up with that, and let's get in, see what I would take to do an updated cost on that, Chief, and try to figure out ways that we can, where we can get that money from, or if we have to budget it.
Okay, got
it. This should be quick. Consideration of mutual aid with the city of North Charleston and the town of Somerville. You want to touch base on that? Basically, it's just I know we help them out, they help us out. We just didn't have a contract between the two, between us.
That's it. We discussed it last time. It just needs to go for for a vote to go to full council.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the mutual aid agreements with the city of North Charleston and the town of Somerville.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. Discussion refurbishment of refurbishment versus replacement of our engine truck. And we have we've put in the budget of a refurbishment, and we've got some numbers on what that truck is worth, what we'd have to put into it versus a replacement. I don't know if you want to touch on this, Chief.
Yes, thank you. So much to my surprise, when we received our information for the refurb, we were also handed some numbers for a replacement with a demonstration truck. The numbers were a lot closer than I anticipated. As you're aware, back in several years ago when we purchased the rescue truck, it came in way over what we anticipated. Replacement, if we were to go with a demo, is considerably less than what we were anticipating. The amount of $300,000 was approved for refurbishing the 2003 pumper. The number came in at 335. However, that has already expired. The replacement, if we were to go with a demo unit, if we can find one that matches our needs, we could save some money. So we're looking at right now the appraisal value of the 75-footer, which could be used as a trade-in or a down payment. We've been given numbers many years ago, $125,000 for a trade-in value. Then we were given $25,000, and with the work that we had done on it, it's back up to $51,500. Shockingly, the number for the 2003 pumper came in at $12,000, way lower than we anticipated. We believe that if we were going to sell it, we'd be doing better off if we sell it outright. However, once again, we're looking at possibly putting $335,000 to $340,000 into a truck that is appraised value of $12,000, which seems that it makes more sense to do some more digging to make sure we're making the right choice and evaluate all 6 of these demos that are out there available. The problem is we'd have to jump on it if we were to decide that one of these worked for us. They would be available in July. So during the budget year, while we're working on the budget, we would have to make a commitment. Possibly the down payment with a ladder truck as a trade-in, or sign in a letter of intent, but to roll over the money from this year into next year and rebudget the difference. We'd also come with a full warranty. Some parts are 20 years, some parts are 6 years. With a refurb, it's still not a bad idea, but with a refurb, we're going to get about 1 year warranty. So we're talking about a $200,000 difference to have a truck that's going to continue to service well with 1 year warranty versus a truck that's going to be built to current specs. It's going to last with a warranty of 20 years on some parts and 6 on others.
Okay. Jimmy or Philip, you got any questions for Chief?
No, Chief, thanks for continuing to look. I think you're right. Taking a breath and figuring out our best path is probably the right thing to do.
What my plans are right now is we had, I took the opportunity when we built the 75-foot truck one that we have now. We normally take 2 people to the plant, but this past time we took the opportunity to pay the difference and have several of our engineers go with us. And we feel that that was a extremely valuable lesson for all concerned. And so I'll have the people who were involved with the purchase and the rebuild, I mean, not the rebuild, but the specs on the new truck that we bought. We'll make sure that they review these with us and go with a fine tooth comb to find out if one of these trucks indeed does fit our needs.
Perfect. Okay, we'll keep working on it.
Thank you.
Under new business, we have some discussion of golf cart regulation and safety. We've had some emails, concerns about unregistered golf carts out here. How do we enforce that? What is, you know, in order to drive a golf cart versus LSV, but the golf cart, you know, it has to be, still has to be insured, has to be registered with the state. So, and there is an importance to that. I mean, if they're driving on the road and they get in an accident, you know, you need to have coverage for that. So, Chief, have you noticed a number of folks or on if you're people in violation or unregistered or, and I know that makes it a little bit difficult because it's not a way that it ties into our system per se, from my understanding, is the registration itself.
That's correct. It doesn't tie into the system that we currently use. What I have seen several instances where we've had individuals operating golf carts that were not or following state law, and that's something that we're starting to work on. One of the areas that has recently come up to us of a concern, or a recent concern that's been brought to our attention, was related to golf cart rental companies that do not have their business on the island. And part of the state statute is that you can only operate these golf carts within 4 miles of your registered address. That's where they're registered to. So if a golf cart is registered to an address off the island, then it cannot operate on Isle of Palms legally. The only exception to the 4 mile rule from your residence would be if you're from an HOA, a gated community like Wild Dunes can operate 4 miles from their gate into the community. But we have our code enforcement officer reaching out to any business that would be in violation of that or potentially be in violation of that, just to educate them about the laws so that they're not renting golf carts out to people who wind up getting tickets because they're operating unlawfully. And the ticket will go to the individual operating it, not to the rental company that rents it out. And that's the unfortunate part. But what we would do is if we have that incident where we have multiple people renting golf carts that were in violation, we would go with our planning commission or our business license official to address the business license of the company that's renting those out. That does not apply to the LSVs, but just to the golf carts that are being rented out.
Jimmy?
On another matter, I'd like to ask the chief, how much activity and complaints do you receive about underage drivers on these golf carts?
We do get several calls about people that are underage driving it, to the point that we're actually working on something now where we can proactively enforce our golf cart statutes, because it's something we get a lot of complaints on those. I would say top complaint in our community is traffic related, and right underneath that would probably be golf carts.
Yeah, I've seen kids their feet can barely reach the pedal.
Yes, and I've stopped a couple of them myself.
And shockingly, the parents are sitting right beside them sometimes. Most of the time, it's usually just juveniles that are. I'm just a little concerned about that. But thank you for answering.
Yes, sir.
Desiree?
Yes, and you all recall that we talked about the Halloween festivities this year looking a little bit differently than before. We're doing the rec department and in coordination with the police department are coordinating a golf cart parade for folks in the community, and also a drive-through haunted house. And everybody who wants to participate needs to register with the rec department, and in the form, we're asking folks to include the registration number. It may be that folks are not aware that they need to be registered. And I think that oftentimes we do find that people are just unaware of that. So hopefully people understand or be aware of those regulations and encourage them to do so. And we will also include some literature in the candy bags that are going to be distributed to the folks who participate in the parade, with some information about golf cart safety and what the regulations are. So we're using that event as an opportunity to make sure that they understand what rules they need to follow when using a golf cart in our community.
And do we have, I know we have the information for golf carts on the website, but and I have an LSV, so I haven't had to go online to look at the registration stuff. Under golf cart information, do we have a hyperlink to SCDOT form where they can go make it easily accessible to download that form and take it to DOT, or available? I can go online right now and check, but I wasn't sure if you knew or not.
Yes, the golf cart registration, there's a hyperlink on the website. It's under locals, golf carts and low speed vehicles. There is there's a form right there for them to register.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, and I think that's, anybody else have any questions on that? Golf carts and so, hey, Chief, when you said we have a hard time, let's say you have a golf cart that's not, you see one that's not registered or in parking violation. Obviously you can write a ticket, but there's no way to, I mean, you have a hard time tracking it. Are you starting to put a database together within the department?
The way it works is even when we issue a parking ticket to a golf cart that's not registered, we put that serial number from that golf cart on the ticket. And so then anytime we encounter that golf cart from then on, we will know that, hey, this one's already been issued a ticket in the past, and it'll build up fines just like a vehicle would. And we would treat it very similar to that, to include even towing it if it had excess fines.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
New business, B, consideration of a recommendation for the Signal 30 Award. It's been a while since we've issued a Signal 30 Award in the city, and it basically goes for, service above and beyond. It's a citizens award, or so anyway, actually anybody can win it, but we haven't done it in a while. Want to give us background on this?
Get that? So we have a island resident who was not home. However, his disabled relative was. Their generator caught on fire, and Terry McKenzie of the water company just happened to be in the area, darted over, put the fire out, and went and shut the gas off. The homeowner truly believes that had this not happened, the fire would have extended to the house before the fire department arrived. And he would highly recommend that we consider Terry McKenzie, who we all know and love, for a Signal 30 Award, and I couldn't agree more.
Make a motion to approve that recommendation.
Second.
I think that's a great idea. And we, like I said, in a time, now everything going on, we need more of this. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. That's good. And we'll reach out to him. Hopefully we can get it to him and maybe get him in our next, maybe a city council Zoom and award it to him. So.
Sounds good. I'll get it ordered.
Got it. Next item is discussion and consideration of changes to the alarm ordinance. And Chief, are you going to take this one? I know we've had some code stuff there we want to get changed to make it.
Yes, sir, I can. Basically what it is when we got to looking at our alarm ordinance and the number of times that, our ordinance right now requires you to register your alarm with the police department prior to having it or when you have it. And I went through the ordinance and I sent you I think you all should have a copy of it. And I just realized a typo in the first paragraph, and that's embarrassing, but I apologize. But you'll see I broke down the different ordinances and some of the concerns I had. And really, the concern is if we're requiring them to permit their alarm with us, are we discouraging them from having an alarm? Statistics will show that an average burglary takes about 8 minutes from the time they breach the door to taking the items and getting out of the house. Our response time is much faster than that. So if we have an alarm, then the call comes out faster and we have a higher probability of getting there during the commission of a crime and being able to catch the individual in the act and hopefully prevent things from happening like this in the future. If we issue tickets for not permitting an alarm, people might become more hesitant to get an alarm activated or to just have one in general, which means that then somebody breaks into their house, they're able to steal all their stuff, and we don't find out until the individual gets home after it's already happened, and that's too late. It's difficult at that point. And that was really where the concerns came from in the beginning, were just along the lines of discouraging residents from having them. I'm sure when this ordinance was enacted, alarms were a lot different back then. They went off more frequently, the wind would blow and they'd go off. And they've come a long way since then now, where the alarms are a little bit more believable and they function a lot differently. A lot of individuals now may not even utilize a standard alarm company like what we're used to. Many are using the Ring doorbell systems or the Nest or Blink or whatever those different camera systems are to alert them that it's going on. So it really doesn't even apply to a lot of our residents now. But one of those things that if we could change it, we could eliminate them from not wanting to get an alarm because they don't want to get a ticket for not having it registered with us, or the amount of hours that are spent by our staff to send a letter out in December. We send letters to everybody who has an alarm, and then it takes pretty much the entire month for her to get that done right. And then everybody accidentally sends in a check because they think they're late or they think they have to pay for it again, and they really don't. I think it would eliminate a lot of confusion, and our systems have really changed since then. And then I laid everything else out. Is there any question that you have on anything else I laid out in that?
No, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, what do you need from us, Chief?
Because it would be a change in the ordinance to either change the wording or change the ordinance altogether, it would be something that council would have to vote on. I wanted to, before I came to you and put a recommended change to ordinances, I wanted to see if there was an appetite to even have that discussion.
Yes, there's for me. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know if we can go through and, I see that typo there. The registration, I don't know if we can well, maybe we'll have to ask our city attorney, but just striking that whole section out of required registration of alarm systems, unless you think there's a need for it. I know some of the commercial properties have it, and I'm not sure it's going to be different, but.
How about if we refer this to legal for proper
Okay.
wording of a new ordinance?
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. You all can make a recommendation to approve or bring before City Council in the form of first reading for later this month, and we can work on a red line for your consideration and council consideration later.
Okay.
I'd like to make that motion, please.
Okay, it's a motion to modify the city alarm ordinance. Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Chief, for putting that together. And like I said, technology changes and we have to change with it. So let's move forward. We have our department reports. Chief Graham, you want to give us an update on what's been going on?
Will do. We're continuing to monitor everything concerning COVID-19. We are constantly resupplying our personal protective equipment as needed, trying to keep a full supply and then some. Working closely with Trident Construction and trying to stay out of their way, and everybody's been working very well together. We're working towards our transition back into the building. As Desiree said, the movers will be here on the 7th to bring the heavy furniture back in. The plan right now is for personnel to move back in on the 15th. We do have the bay doors. We're gonna have to work around that, no problem. But doing such a great job, I couldn't wait. I'm in mine right now. So it's been over 2 years since I've been in this room, so I'm here now. We also working on the demo for the trailers out in the parking lot. So hopefully by the end of October, we'll start to move those off site. Within a couple weeks, everything will be back to normal. We did receive a letter of gratitude from an island resident for Battalion Chief Smith and firefighter John Sesganault, who went down and assisted a resident with a washing machine that was full of water and he was unable to get it out. Very, very thankful. We did receive the replacement radios for the trucks. These are the radios that were budgeted as needed, but the life cycle, and we were starting to have some trouble, and the plan was for us to wait until they needed to be replaced. We were starting to get some alerts from the county on some radios, and it was nearing the end of the contract, so we went ahead and purchased the radios to replace the old ones. We're also working on flash upgrades to our handheld radios. There was a little glitch that's caused some delays, but we're working on that. And at the end of the day, they'll be able to program our radios over the air without us having to take them to the shop every time they need work. We already talked about the trucks. We've just finished, about to finalize some changes, some revisions to the standard operating guidelines, general orders, and standards of care. Battalion Chief Hathaway is completed a improved version of probationary firefighter handbook, driver operator handbook, and aerial operator handbook. And he's working on a watercraft handbook. We did respond to watercraft in distress in Deweese on the 1st. There was a girl who was injured. We brought her and her dad back to shore. Responded to 54th Avenue for a full arrest. A family member was performing CPR when our personnel arrived. We took over. The person did regain consciousness and a pulse. And that is my report. Any questions?
No, thank you, Chief.
Good morning again. Real quick, just to, I want to brag on the firefighters that went out to that cardiac arrest. That's phenomenal work they did. They're true heroes, and they saved somebody's life, and that's worth noting. So for the police department, I'll say we went on 1,243 calls for service for the month of September, 89 incident reports with 131 charges. Total, our DUIs are still going up compared to last year. We had 9 DUIs for this month, and we just made one over the weekend again as well. 348 traffic stops, which is starting to go back up. We had a lot of complaints, as I mentioned earlier, about traffic on the island. So we have tried to be diligent stepping up those efforts to address those concerns. As far as other things within the police department, I have 2 officers now. They're on their way to Columbia to pick up a mobile kitchen trailer from the 1033 program. That's a trailer that's pulled behind a truck, and in the state of an emergency, they can pop it out, and it's a full functioning kitchen that we can cook food on to feed our folks. They're looking at it. Hopefully it's in good condition and it'll come back. If not, it'll stay in Columbia. We did put in for the grant that we had previously talked about for 2 vehicles to go on the beach, 2 Polarises, trailer, and a digital billboard sign. Right now, that one that we have on 21st is a rental, and we're renting that sign. This is a fully funded grant, no matching funds needed at all. So it's 100% funded. And also with the BSO truck, we have ordered it. They gave us about a 90-day turnaround for that truck to be available in Beaufort. Any questions?
Excellent. How's the paint job going on the other vehicle?
It's going well. We're trying not to put too much pressure on it because it's free. So, right. But they've got a really cool design where it's going to be gray to kind of match some of our other vehicles, and it's going to be rhino layered on the inside so that it's actually functional in water rescues, so that when it's raining, we can put people in there. They're less likely to trip and fall or slip and fall. But we're looking forward to having it soon.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Next item is the next meeting date is November, rolling into November 2nd. Anybody have any problems with that?
No.
Would that be our last meeting of the year, Ryan?
Unless we need another.
We used to take off in December, but we didn't last year.
We'll play, Jimmy, with COVID and everything going on. I know our emergency ordinance expires December 13th, I believe, somewhere. Some of this. Or
12.
Okay.
12th.
Never mind.
News around there, so I will just go ahead and we'll keep this and we'll go on from there. Who knows what else we may have to do. So, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
folks. Have a good day.